But I think now is the time to wrap this up and talk about our favorite things in wrestling this week. The thing that made you happy the most in wrestling. For me, I had a couple of things I was thinking about. There's the fact that 2.0 are now signed to AEW. Couldn't happen to a nicer team after how they got treated in NXT. I'm excited for ROH Glory by Honor this weekend at the 2300 Arena in Philadelphia. I won't be there, but I will be there in spirit. As that show, the 2-night event happens there. You get the last stand with Taven and Vincent in the steel cage. It's the first steel cage match in ROH's history.
Oh, really?
If you don't count Cage of Death at Death Before Dishonor many years ago, well, that was just a big honking thing. This is like an actual proper steel cage, and so I'm really excited for that.
Let me ask you real quick before we go off on that. Like, do you know what kind of cage it's going to be? Is it going to be like
bars or chain link?
Yeah.
I can't speak to that, but I mean, I'm sure it's going to be a brutal war. And then I also say the close second place for my favorite thing in wrestling this week was why Ric Flair was trending, and not for the AAA, not the Triple Mania stuff.
Yes.
I don't know if you've seen this, Jay, and people can see this on the internet if you want. It's a very racy picture that allegedly had Ric Flair because the hair was very similar, but then Flair's people had to go and say, that couldn't have been him because the Nature Boy doesn't ride trains. So
he rides Space Mountain alone.
That is my second favorite thing in wrestling this week. My first favorite thing in wrestling this week, though, Jay, is the return of Sting to in-ring competition in TNT for the first time in 20 years.
Yes.
Speaking of Flair, that was his last opponent on TNT 20 years ago, the final Nitro. This week on Dynamite, he and Darby were in a no DQ not false count anywhere, but it was a no DQ tornado tag match against 2.0.
Yeah, I saw that highlights of that.
We saw some of the Sting of old because he looked in phenomenal shape.
He did.
For his age. He had no shirt this time. He was just going in like the scorpion, like the long panted singlet. I don't know what you call that, but he was wearing that
He even used the Just for Men, which he didn't in WWE for whatever reason.
Right. He was the Silver Scorpion then, but no, he did the Stinger Splash, a double Scorpion Death Drop, double Scorpion Deathlock, which he had never done before. It's been done before, but not by him, and he looked great doing it. And I think it was just so cool. I felt like, someone who has been catching up on a lot of early Sting, watching a lot of early Sting for the classic reviews and stuff, seeing a little glimpse of the Sting of old in that match on Wednesday night kind of took me back to the early 90s, and seeing Sting perform like that again. Someone who I didn't really watch growing up, because I didn't watch wrestling and Sting wasn't my guy, but I can see why Sting had that energy and that aura about him, unlike almost anyone else at the time. And so to see Sting perform like that again in front of the hot crowd in Houston, it was great to see, man. That's my favorite thing in wrestling.
And I mean, not to make it kind of a boring end to the podcast, but that was mine too. Yeah. I mean, what better does it get than that?
I know people are going to draw comparisons to like other legends like Ric Flair this week in Triple Mania, or when Goldberg does it, where people are like, it's a double standard. Why are we happy for Sting? And why are we frustrated by Goldberg?
Dude, I just realized something. This is 2021, and the big names this week are Sting, Goldberg, and Ric Flair. What the fuck
and to a lesser extent CM Punk. But yes,
wow,
it's been the week for the legends to shine, I guess. But let's talk about that for just a quick second. I know we're kind of near the end of this, but why do we like it when Sting does what he did this week, and why do we not like it when Goldberg is a co-main eventer of SummerSlam?
Well, I think it's just the presentation, honestly. Mm-hmm. That's my opinion.
I mean, it really does come down to context and circumstances, because the circumstances are different. If Sting were challenging for the AEW World Championship, I would be a little miffed by that. Yes. I would not like that. Sting is in a good place right now where he's giving the rub to this younger guy who's the future of AEW. He's in these fun segments. He's just kind of like hanging loose. He does the kicks with Orange Cassidy. He throws up the 2 Sweet with Moxley and Kingston.
Right.
He's doing this stuff with 2.0. It's like he is being put in this position where he is kind of
he's elevating people.
Right. He is giving his aura to other people. Whereas when Goldberg keeps getting brought back for these WWE title, these Universal title situations every year or so.
And he almost squashes everybody, but he has to, because he squashed Brock Lesnar.
Right, because he's in this short match mode, and he doesn't get to give that to other people. So it's like, who's the mid-carder that Goldberg gave a rub to? Dolph Ziggler, and look how that happened, you know?
Right.
It just seems, when people say, oh, how are you going to get mad about Goldberg but be cool with Sting? It's all about context, and it's all about how they're being used. The whole criticism that WWE has with their use of legends is that the legends have to always be above the current stars, always have to beat them.
Unless it's Legends Night.
Right. Then with AEW, their use of legends is they're used as like player coaches, or they're used in these auxiliary roles, or they're used in these things to put other wrestlers over. That is the key difference, and that is why seeing Sting pulling out the double Scorpion Deathlock is a must-see event this week, and why Lashley and Goldberg this Saturday at SummerSlam might be a dud.
Right, yeah, that's true. That's true. You know, I didn't think about the possibility, because I didn't know for sure that Sting was going to return and start doing tag team work with Darby. Mm-hmm. I mean, can you imagine Sting and Darby versus the Bucks?
Yeah,
a pretty good match.
That would be very interesting to see how far you can go with Sting in this position. How high up the card can they take him? I think there's, you can walk that fine line. I don't want him winning championships. I want him to keep giving that rub to other people in fun, entertaining ways, which I think is how they've been using him. It's funny because when they first had him show up and he was just cutting the same promo, and then there's Darby every week, and there's also Team Taz, that got very repetitive and very old, and I really hated that. But I think they've done a real turnaround, especially in 2021, as to how he has been portrayed, like the latter half of his time in AEW. I think since the street fight with Darby against Team Taz, things have drastically improved.
I could totally see, just hypothetically, with the whole what we were talking about earlier with MJF and CM Punk, if MJF was the one who was with his crew and CM Punk came out, or vice versa, basically, like maybe MJF was out there just cutting a promo on his own, CM Punk comes out, and then his crew comes in after, what's the name of MJF's group?
The Pinnacle, yeah.
Yeah, and then a team like Darby Allin and Sting come in and save CM Punk. Because they are both on. There's a lot of Darby Allin references, and Darby is very straight edge.
That's true. He also dropped the phrase "best in the world," so that is a thread I didn't think about. Like I said, this is the rampant CM Punk speculation podcast, folks, and I think to bookend it from the beginning to end, to talking about it, I think is very appropriate.
Want to hear more? Subscribe to This Week in Regret on YouTube for full episodes of the podcast, dropping every Thursday night. Don't forget, we're also on SoundCloud.